Good evening, everyone. I'm Milena Barsegyan with my colleague Leila Rahimli, who will be your host tonight on the Caucasus Dispatch.
We start our program with a new development around the controversial law on foreign influence that has dominated Georgia's political agenda with the past months. President Salome Zurabishvili appealed to the Constitutional Court to overturn the conversational foreign agent law, arguing it violated the constitutional rights of the Georgian citizens. Georgian non-governmental organizations are also preparing a separate appeal to the Constitutional Court. More than 30 non-governmental organizations will contest legality of the law. What are the chances that the law cause domestic and international criticism will be overturned? Our correspondent Sevgi Ismailbeyli talked to the lawyers about the process.
On July 15, President Salome Zurabishvili of Georgia and over 100 NGOs appealed to the Constitutional Court to repeal the contentious foreign agents law, arguing it violates Article 78 of the Georgian Constitution, which mandates the country's integration into the EU and NATO.
Push for the government.
Lawyer Guram Imnadze, who represents social justice centers, says the Russian law marginalizes the organizations like them and frames them the organizations that are acting based on foreign interests.
Currently, we are working on the collective constitutional lawsuit together with other partner organizations, and this week we will apply to the Constitutional Court. And considering the fact that Constitutional Court is also under the heavy political influence from the ruling party, then our expectations are not as high.
He mentions that if they don't register for them, they have to pay a big amount of fine, but they only make money from the projects and they don't have any extra money to pay the amount.
Main fields are freedom of information and expression, because the law definitely violates these particular rights. Another right we are challenging is the right to unity.
We talked to lawyer Kote Chikoria about if they have a chance to get what they want. Chikoria thinks that everything depends on the 2024 elections.
There is two steps. The first step is discussion about suspension of this legal act, nearly in this second month about it. And the second is discussion and the final decision. If the Georgian Dream lose elections and there will be a new political parties in the government, it means that it is possibility to have a independent constitutional court. I think there is a chance.
The European Union delegation in Georgia published a report today about the funding Georgia has received over the last 5 years from European Union. According to the report, between 2019 and 2024, the Georgian government has received 11 times more EU funding than the civil society organizations. The report reveals that over 500 million euros were given to Georgia from the European Union. Based on the data, ministries and other state institutions in Georgia were given 517 million euros, while civil society organizations allocated 46 million euros. The ministries of regional development, finance and defense were the main recipients of EU funding.
Georgia's chance of joining the European Union are held because of the law on transparency of foreign influence, also known as the Russian law. This law raises major concerns for Georgia's independent media and civil society. Regional media outlet Net Gazete's editor Taze Kuprashvili warned that the law increases risks to media operations and journalist safety. OC Media's Mariam Nikuradze feared the law weakens press freedom and prevents Georgia's EU aspirations. Our journalists provide an in-depth report about the impact of this law on Georgia's media and democracy.
These scenes are from protests in Georgia against the Russian law. Thousands took to the street in Georgia's capital, concerned about the country's future. Despite objectives, the government's law on transparency of foreign influence was passed in parliament. Independent media outlets and civic society organizations are the main target of the law and will be directly affected by it. Many outlets in Georgia are worried about their future after the Russian law came into effect. One of them is Net Gazeti, based in Tbilisi. According to the editor Tazo Kupriashvili, they need donors to sustain independent operations, given that Georgia's media business model doesn't function like in Western countries. The only way to survive is through financial support from Western donors.
Until now it was Open Society Foundation, and there are a lot of small grants from USAID, from Dutch government, European Union, and so on. Business model of media does not work in Georgia like in Western countries, because businesses are restricted to fund, to place advertisement in critical media, in media that criticizes government, and the only way to survive this is to get funds from Western donors.
In this case, hundreds of people will either be unemployed at best or imprisoned at worst.
Net Gazeti and Batumelebi are the same company, and if we will be forced to shut down our company, around 30 people will lose work. We asked journalists who want to work in conditions like this, because it's very stressful, because it's dangerous, and there is a real risk of physical harassment and so on, and absolutely everyone is ready for it.
Currently, independent journalists are exploring avenues to continue their work. Some are considering relocating abroad, viewing it as a viable solution. Conversely, others plan to stay until the threat of imprisonment looms large, adapting a strategy akin to Mariam Nikuradze. OC media journalist Mariam Nikuradze believes this law not only curtails journalistic freedom, but also undermines the media landscape in the country, potentially obstructing Georgia's path to the European Union.
If Georgian Dream stays in power, there is probably Georgia is going to follow the path of Belarus or Russia or even Azerbaijan in terms of shutting down independent media, whether it will be the foreign agents draft law or other laws. I believe that eventually we're all gonna have to leave. If you register, then they are gonna enter your organization, and probably, like, if they want to shut you down, they will shut you down. They don't need any specific reason. If you don't shut down, then the fines are high. Some organizations will not be able to pay these fines, but even if they do, you are forcefully registered, and eventually it means shutting down. So, of course, like, eventually it will mean there will be no independent media.
Donor organizations, however, say they will support independent media until the end. Otherwise, the Russian experience will also occur in Georgia, says the deputy director and media manager of the Civil Society Foundation.
We cannot give you details of how we continue because there are still some unknowns. We don't know exactly what the mandate of the monitoring mission is going to be, but what we know at this point is that we will be getting fines. We will continue with our projects, with our support for media, and not only media, also activists and CSOs. And also we have elections pending, so naturally we are working on that.
Media lawyer Mariam Kokosashvili says that the draft law doesn't include individuals at this point, but only non-profit organizations or media outlets with more than 20% of their income coming from abroad. Such organizations must submit a financial statement to Ministry of Justice each year. If they fail to do so, they will be fined 25,000 laris. After the fine, if they still do not submit the statement, they will be fined 10,000 laris for each month overdue.
Government can't directly close these organizations, independent media outlets, they can just fine them, and if they don't pay, then state agencies will go and take their properties. This means that they will stop their working, and of course it means the closure, but legally it's not. It does not mean that states close them.
Many organizations have the right to appeal to the court to defend their interests. According to the lawyer Caucasus Dispatch, we are closely monitoring the situation. The future of Georgia and its media landscape will be determined in the October election. Here, Shayan Holakwi and Khanlar Mehdiev, GIPA News.
The law on foreign influence is not the only controversial bill that the Georgian parliament has introduced. Georgian parliament gave the initial approval to a bill that heavily restricts LGBTQ+ rights. These include bans on same-sex relationships, the gender affirmation surgery, and possibly outlawing pride events and public displays of the rainbow flag. Sevgi Ismailbaili spoke with Beka Gabadadze, the chairperson of Queer Association Timida, about the potential impact of the proposed law. That the government's actions are influenced by the upcoming elections in October. Should this bill pass, queer people's future in Georgia will be bleak, to say the least. The following coverage explores the issue in details.
On 27 June, Georgia's parliament gave its initial approval to a set of bills containing sweeping curbs on LGBT rights, including bans on the propaganda of same-sex relationships and gender affirmation surgery. The law, which was proposed by the ruling Georgian Dream Party and which could outlaw pride events and public displays of the LGBT rainbow flag, was approved by a majority of deputies. We talked to chairperson of Timida, Beka Gabadadze, about the possibility effects of the draft law, which is expected to be approved in September. In his opinion, if there were no election in October, this decision might not even be on the agenda. The government, thinking that it will lose the election, is trying to use all the means at its disposal.
As I see this law, it shows that that the government have these far-right policies and using political homophobia as a tool of the scapegoats, because actually right now the ruling party have a lot of crisis itself, and they want to make us as a scapegoat to focus on us, because they know that in society some prejudices exist, and they're using this pre-election period.
If the bill is adopted, it raises concern that not only Georgian LGBTQ+ individuals and activists, but also Azerbaijani queers. Usalia Hajiyeva is Azerbaijani filmmaker and a trans woman who has been living in Georgia for over 3 years. Usalia continues hormonal replacement therapies in Georgia and gives voice to her community by producing documentaries about trans people.
When it's come to us, to trans people, this law restricting also hormone replacement therapy, it will affect the mental situation of people, because if you cannot go to the endocrinologist to do all this stuff, blood tests and so on, and if you are not available to just go to the pharmacy and buy hormone medications, it can affect not only even your mental health, also physically.
Usale, who lives a life between art and activism, will continue to struggle. However, this law may make it impossible for her stay in this country.
I don't know, because this whole process was intense, especially for me, for a person who came from Azerbaijan, because we have political stability in our country, if in a bad way, but we have stability. Thinking about to move somewhere, but also where to move, because I'm not the big fan of the this Western countries. I don't have that much choices, and I think This is the reason why I'm staying here.
Gulnara Mehdieva is one of the leading activists fighting for LGBTQ+ and women's rights in Azerbaijan. Gulnara, who was not safe in Azerbaijan due to political accusations, came to Georgia for a 2-month period. However, the anti-LGBT law expected to be passed in Georgia may dash Gulnara's hopes for her safety.
Nəzərə alsaq ki, Azərbaycan hökumətinin də Gürcüstanda sıx əlaqələri var və mənim kimliyim burada məsələn daha geniş yayılsa, bu mənə də problem yarada bilər. Hətta bəlkə deport da yeyə bilərəm. Şəhərdə bəzi məkanlar var idi ki, onlar queer təhlükəsiz məkanlar sayılırdı. Kafelər, restoranlar, publar. Orada dostlarımla istirahət edirdim, amma indi artıq onlar da təhlükəsiz sayılmayacaq və mən oturduğum yerdə artıq bilməyəcəm ki, həmin yerə hücum olacaq yoxsa olmayacaq. Özümü həm xarici agent qanununa görə, həm anti-queer qanununa görə narahat hiss edirəm və buradan hara gedəcəyimi də bilmirəm. Burada qalıb necə yaşayacağımı da tam olaraq bilmirəm. Həmçinin dediyim kimi işləmək də artıq çətinləşəcək. Bura hal-hazırda 2 aylıq bir planla gəlmişəm, amma avqustdan sonra mənim üçün bir müəmmadır.
The legislation would also ban queer people from adopting children and prevent people from changing their gender on ID documents. If approved, LGBT propaganda in the education system will be outlawed and broadcasters banned from showing intimate scenes involving same-sex relationships. Becca said that the future for queer people in Georgia looks rather gloomy if the anti-LGBT bills are adopted.
We continue work until we can, but somehow we are also thinking about there will not be possibility to work as organization. How to do the our work conclude, we have some responsibility. We have some scenarios that we are working on. Also the possibilities that we left the country also. That is the radical option that we might use. But I'm very hopeful that the young mobilization and queer mobilization on the election will be like really high level.
LGBT-themed events are regularly met with counter-protests in the country. Last year, organizers cancelled the LGBT march in Tbilisi, citing security concerns. The creeping occupation continues in Georgia as we speak. Less than 60 kilometers from the capital of Tbilisi, Russian-erected barbed wire divides villages, preventing residents from visiting relatives and their own backyards. Residents along the FACTA border live under a constant security threat, coupled with daily social problems. Our reporters travel to the FACTA border area to provide this report.
Since the August 2008 war, also known as the Russo-Georgian War, a conflict between Russia and Georgia, mostly involving South Ossetian separatists, centered around the disputed regions of South Ossetia.
Just a few kilometers away from Tbilisi, there is occupation still going on, and we can see its face here.
The Russian force is erecting posts and wire fencing along the whole administrative boundary line to demarcate the so-called border of South Ossetia, and they have set up guard posts there. After the borders were drawn, dozens of Georgian families found themselves cut off from the area that Tbilisi controlled on the other side. Some people have lost their farmland and pasture. Valia Vanishvili, a resident of the village of Khurvaleti, is an elderly woman whose situation has attracted international attention. Her home and land have been affected by the erection of fences and barriers by Russian and South Ossetian forces. She faces significant challenges in accessing basic services.
როგორი დამოკიდებულება აქვს თქვენ დამი რუსებს? რუსები ხალხები არიან. იქ ზიან და გამარჯვება. თეთრი ბალი დამწიფე ერთ არ მომიკრიფია, გოგრა ბალი დამწიფე აფე. არაფერი არ მომიკრიფია. ესე სალდალპენ, არაფერი. ეხლა კონკრეტ ესასხია. ესასხია კონკრეტა. 15 ძილი კაკალი მიდია 15.
Access to clean water and food is a challenge due to the inadequate infrastructure and the effects of borderization. The main danger is crossing illegally erected barbed wire fence, which could lead to arrest by patrolling Russian soldiers for de facto border violation. Following the Russo-Georgian War of 2008, many people were displaced from their homes in South Ossetia and other affected areas. Akhali Khurvaleti, like several other villages, has been used as a resettlement area for internally displaced people from South Ossetia and other conflict zones. The Georgian governments and international organizations have facilitated the construction of housing and the provision of basic services to support these displaced populations.
This is a new Khurvaleti, Akhali Khurvaleti in Georgian. This settlement was established by Georgian government in 2008 after the war. There are living 200 people in these cottages right now here.
Our three characters that had been internally displaced from Tkhinvali now call Akhali Khurvaleti their home. Nona Melanishvili from Didi Liakhvi, village Kekhwi, thinks that the conditions there are poor.
განვითარების საშუალება ძალიან ნაკლებად. ჩვენ მაგალითად მე და ჩემი უკლე ორივენი თბილისში ვმუშაობთ. ვეწალებით აი ძალიან რა ვიცი. ორი შვილი მყავს, დადიან გორში კალათბურთზე არიან წარმატებული კალათბურთელები ძალიან. არ გვაქვს აქ პირობები, აი ელემენტარული ფარი არ აქვთ ბავშვებს ჩამოუტყდათ, განა არ გავაკეთებთ პირადი სახსრებით, მაგრამ ვიცი რომ ხვალდაზე მაინც აღარ იქნება ის ფარი. ბაღი არის კი და სკოლა გვერდის სოფლებში დადიან განვითარებისთვის. იმედია მშვიდობა იქნება და რა ვიცი, დანარჩენი მშვიდობა იყოს და ჯანმრთელობა.
On the other hand, Vano Javakhishvili from Samachablo, Ksuisi village, thinks that although there is an ongoing occupation, place maintains being in peace.
Vano Javakhishvili 40 წელი სამაჩაბლოდან პატარა ლიახვის ხეობიდან სოფელი ქსუისი. მშვიდობა, დედას გეფიცები, ნაღდად მშვიდობა. ისრაელში ვიცხოვრე 7 წელი და ომის პასიც და სამაჩაბლოდან. მშვიდობა, პროსტა ეს შეიძლება, ოკუპაცია კი გვაგდა ახლა. მშვიდობა კი არის რა.
Originally from Abkhazia, Fatima Derbaidze was forced to flee her home when she was in the 7th grade. Later, she found herself in the same situation with her 4 underage children, this time from Samachablo. She is concerned that the new law on foreign influence implemented this spring by the Georgian government and hinders NGOs will have a negative impact on the potential for development of internally displaced persons.
აი საბავშვო ის რო არის მაგ ეგეც არასამთავრობოს გაკეთებულია სხვადასხვაის. ძალიან კარგი ერთობოდნენ ბავშვები რამე მოდიან იყენებენ. ასოციაციისგან მე მაგალითად მოსაცდელი როა მცირედი არის, მაგრამ მივიღე მონაწილეობა და ჩემი აქტიურობით და ერთი პატარა გოგო იყო, ორივეს აქტიურობით გავაკეთეთ ის პატარა მოსაცდელი. და ასევე კიდე სხვა რამეებიც გაკეთდა, რომელიც უკვე იმდენად აღარ შემოდიან უკვე ეს ორგანიზაციები და აღარ არის იმდენად აქტიური.
This journalistic piece, along with all stories we gathered from Khurvaleti, was made possible thanks to the protection provided by the police. Venturing there alone possesses significant risks due to the presence of Russian forces. For security reasons, the policemen requested that we refrain from showing the faces. Once again, being accompanied by police reminds us of the people in this area who live in constant fear, hesitant even to take a walk alone in the surrounding areas.
Next, we shed light on the issues Indian students face while living in Tbilisi. They come to Georgia for education, but face problems shaped by stereotypes and prejudices. One of the biggest challenges they go through is finding accommodation, making their already difficult academic journey even harder. Sabina Mamatli and Shelby Ankiewicz explore the personal stories of the students. They examine what can be done to address these injustices and ensure Georgia is an inclusive environment for everyone.
Many Indians come to Georgia to pursue higher education. While some are welcomed with hospitality, others face racial discrimination.
One of my roommates, he is he's towards the darker skin shade. So we were in Carrefour, and then he was looking at a tuna tin. So he has told me how the cops have stopped him a couple of times because they thought he must have stolen something.
Nikila Liz Abbey is a fourth-year medical student at Seoul University in Tbilisi. Born in southern India and based in Dubai, She studied medicine in Ukraine but fled to Georgia once the war started. Since being here, she's especially noticed prejudice towards her male friends who have stronger Indian features.
Once when I was with him and then I went to the juice section and he was holding the tuna tin and reading, and the security was just like circling over him and checking his stuff. And then when I came, the security was like, okay, you can go. So he did kind of feel bad because that was I think just because they thought he was going to steal something from.
One of the biggest issues the students face in Georgia is finding housing. Nikila says the rent prices increased significantly for Indians once the landlord discovered their nationality. The difference can vary from 1 to 200 Georgian lari.
The owners are very glad if you're a girl. They are very enthusiastic about it, and if it were a guy, they'll be like, so my guy friends have difficulty getting apartment. They think the guys are not going to take care of the house, which is very understandable. I think back in UAE as well as in India and in Ukraine, it was the case everywhere internationally.
Between prices and stereotypes, it makes finding an apartment even more difficult. Mohit Malikar is another Indian student living in Georgia. It took him 2 months to find his current apartment after searching on popular websites like myhome.g. There, he's found apartment listings directly discriminating against Indians. Mohit says that though some of the stereotypes are right, they're not true for everyone.
Our culture is completely different. Like our parents, they pampered us a lot. Like they will not us to do certain things like washing dishes or like washing clothes. Like there will be some help for that or something like that in India. So most of the kids who like just come here, they don't have the etiquettes or like manners or anything, like because they're just kids, like teenage. It's like 10 Indian students are living, so I think only like 1 or 2 will be like that. Rest 8 they will be fine, they'll keeping the apartment and everything clean, but like because of those 2 everyone else is suffering like that. Yeah.
Majority of foreign students at Seoul University come from India. Nina Urushadze says that Georgia saw an influx of Indian students after the war in Ukraine. She says a new project is underway to help students find accommodation.
We are in the process of constructing our own dormitory. It will be very close to the university and will be provided to the students and international staff soon, and would hold about 1,300 students in total, which is very comfortable for the students, and I think that would be a good advantage of our university.
The dormitory is expected to be ready by spring of next year.
This here is Dirsi, a residential complex in the Samgori neighborhood of Tbilisi. Locals say that it is a popular housing option among Indian students because of its proximity to universities and affordable accommodation. According to Geostat, India ranks 3rd among the countries with the biggest amount of immigrants coming to Georgia. Over the last 10 years, this number rose significantly, with just over 1,000 immigrants in 2012 to nearly 9,000 in 2023.
If 2 Indian students is going to rent the apartment, and when they are like fulfilling the contract and they are telling that 2 will leave, like 1 or 2 months later, maybe 10 or 12 person will start living there, and they are just splitting their rent, and maybe 10 person will live in 2-bedroom apartments. So this is main problem.
Amiran Gamkrividze says there are several reasons why landlords don't want to rent to Indians, which he believes has nothing to do with being prejudiced.
I don't think it's discrimination, because it's logical thing, because like if you are still looking for apartment, there is no way that you cannot find apartment. Someone will allow you. It's just the thing that they have low choices.
As students navigate this landscape in Georgia, no one knows if and when the situation will get better.
More than 4,000 employees of the online casino evaluation in Georgia have been on the strike since July 12, demanding higher wages and better working conditions. This is the biggest strike in Georgia's history. A solidarity concert has been planned for 8 o'clock tonight in front of the company's office. Learn more about the strike in this report from the scene.
We are here in the Dubai in front of the Evolution Georgia office. Tonight at 8 o'clock, a concert is planned to happen here in solidarity with the strike of employees of Evolution Georgia. Thousands of employees have been on strike since July 12. They are demanding better wages, work conditions, and discrimination-free workspace. Founded in 2018, a Swedish company, Evolution Georgia, services online casino. The staff, which mainly consists of students, work as live casino dealers. Only in Georgia, the company has about 8,000 employees.
Evolution Gaming in Georgia employs more than 7,000 people, and more than 4,000 employees signed up for workout, demanding a better working condition, better benefits, and they want just to be treated respectfully by management of Evolution Georgia.
In response to the strike, Evolution Georgia claimed that the majority of its employees resumed to work. However, the strike participants refute this claim, noting that over half of their workers are on strike. No protest has been seen so far. Ansiani notes that the protesters have not had any contact with the administration since the start of the strike.
We are not going to stop before our demands will not be implemented. Yeah.
Student employees working in Georgia's service sector face mental health challenges as they manage the demands of work while also balancing their university and social lives. Mariam Zamtaradze and Salome Simone explore the difficulties these students encounter and discuss potential solutions.
I'm CSJMM, 23 years old. I work as a call center operator and at the same time I study at university. I usually wake up around 6 a.m. to get some studying done before heading to my morning classes. Sometimes I have to bring my homework to office and study there. In the end, it really affects my mental health and it's really hard to balance these two. The biggest challenge is the constant feeling of burnouts that won't go away. I always feel pressured to do well at my work and in my studies, which makes me feel like I'm squeezed. The stress never stops. On top of that, money problems add more anxiety because I struggle to pay my bills while keeping up with school. I spend most of my day here. I have made this place as comfortable as possible for me to make it less stressful. In most cases, I bring food from home, have dinner here, and then bring back the dishes. Another challenge is dealing with a difficult customer at work, which can be very stressful, and that's why I regularly go to therapy. გამარჯობათ, ესე გისმენთ? დამშვიდით ბატონო, ვეცდები დაგეხმაროთ ყველანაირად. ოთახის ნომერი მითხარით თქვენი?
I know like many students and even I had them in therapy, especially who works in customer service. It's really hard for them. It's really stressing. Like first symptom is like tiredness. You always feel tired, like hopeless. You don't have strength to even wake up in the morning, and also sadness. Like you want to cry. You don't feel that you can take it any longer, and also you don't see ways to continue like studying or working. You can't sleep, like sleep deprivation is also a big problem. Maybe you can't sleep, or maybe you want to sleep all the time. And also you are losing interest to like everything. You don't go out often. like depression, stress, sleeping problems, also losing interest in everything, or maybe hypergetic. It's also a common problem and issue.
Unfortunately, my employer does not offer any specific support systems or programs to help with stress or balance work and study.
When we are talking about student employees, we should consider that they are Generation Z. These people are really different from other generations because of their main characteristics. They value work-life balance. They are trying to find jobs which are helping them to increase their career and career development. Difference from other generations is that they also value work-life balance and mental health, because I can recall one interesting study which was conducted in 2024 this year by the ACT Global. In this research there was shown very interesting results that showed us that these employees, Gen Zs, are more stressed and burnout than other generations.
At my workplace, I want to see formal support systems like therapy and mental health resources just for student employees. Flexible schedules and option to take day off during busy school times would also help.
მადლობა ზარისთვის, ბედნიერ დღეს გისურვებთ, ნახვამდის.
We turn our attention to the Gelati Monastery, a UNESCO-protected monument with a rich history and unmatched artistic values. Unfortunately, this cultural treasure is now facing an alarming crisis. Despite years of rehabilitation efforts, progress has stalled. Recent investigations reveal serious violations during the rehabilitation process. Both of the Minister of Culture and the National Agency for the Protection of Cultural Heritage have ignored and allowed the monastery's condition to worsen. This year, the responsibility for the rehabilitation was handed over to Georgia's Patriarchate. So, who is actually responsible? Why are those at fault held accountable? David Sakasa tried to answer this question in his report.
Gelati, a monument of cultural heritage and an object under the protection of UNESCO. With centuries-old history and exceptional architectural or artistic value. Today, Gelati is in danger. The church has been in the process of rehabilitation for several years now, but there is no progress. The situation is getting worse day by day, and the processes are becoming irreversible. We are losing an object of special importance, paintings and mosaics that have no analogues in Georgia. During the rehabilitation process of Gelati, had discovered many violations. The state is responsible for rehabilitation. However, the Ministry of Culture and the National Agency for the Protection of Cultural Heritage are avoiding responsibility, turning a blind eye to their own mistakes, which they made the rehabilitation process by not performing or improperly performing monitoring. Rehabilitation has been going on for several years now, and no one has heard the answer to the mistakes. No investigation has been started and no criminal responsibility has been brought. We see with our own eyes the damages that the mentioned monument has, and it has been without response for the 5th year. This year, the ministry handed over the rehabilitation of Gelati to the Patriarchate of Georgia, which is another violation at the level of legislation.
გელათის მაგალითი შეიძლება ითქვას, რომ ეს არის ქრესტომატიული ნიმუში იმისა, როგორ ხდება არასწორი მართვის დროს ძეგლის ფიზიკური დაზიანება. იმიტომ რომ ის რაც მოხდა გელათთან დაკავშირებით, ეს არ არის მარტო ტექნოლოგიური წუნი, ვთქვათ, კრამიტის ან დაგების წესის. ეს არის მენეჯმენტის პრობლემა. ეს არის მონიტორინგის პრობლემა. მე ვფიქრობ, რომ კონკრეტული ადამიანები სისხლისამართლის კოდექსით უნდა გასამართლდნენ გელათთან მიმართებაში. იმიტომ რომ ასეთი ტიპის დაზიანებები ძეგლზე ეს არის უკვე შედეგის თვალსაზრისით ეს არის წინასწარი განზრახვით ჩადენილი დანაშაული. გელათთან დაკავშირებით სამწუხაროდ არის რეალური მდგომარეობა ისეთი, რომ ჩვენ ყველა შემთხვევაში შეუქცევადად ვკარგავთ ძალიან მნიშვნელოვან ფრაგმენტებს განსაკუთრებით კედლის მხატვრობაში. ეს მიდგომა რამდენად სწორია გელათთან მიმართებაში, ეს კითხვის ნიშნები რჩება. მე ვერ ავხსნი საზოგადოების ინერტულობას გელათთან დაკავშირებით. ფაქტია, რომ ეს ასეა. მე მეგონა, რომ ქუთაისისთვის, რომელმაც ბევრი ძეგლის დაკარგვაზე თვალი დახუჭა, გელათი იქნებოდა აი ეს გზავნილი, რომელიც რაღაცნაირად გამოაფხიზლებდა სამოქალაქო, განსაკუთრებით ადგილობრივ სამოქალაქო სეგმენტს, მაგრამ სამწუხაროდ ასე არ მოხდა. და ვფიქრობ, რომ ხელისუფლების მხრიდან აი ასეთი არასწორი პოლიტიკის წარმართვის საფუძველიც იყო ის, რომ იმ ხელისუფლებას არ ეშინოდა საზოგადოების, არც პროფესიულის და არც სამოქალაქო საზოგადოების, იმიტომ რომ იცოდა, რომ ამ თვალსაზრისით ინერტული იქნებოდა ორივე მხარე. და ფაქტია, რომ ასე გამოვიდა. ახლაც უნდა იმართებოდეს საპროტესტო აქციები კულტურის სამინისტროსთან, კულტურის მინისტრის გადადგომის მოთხოვნით.
Currently, Gelati is closed for tourists, and the temple administration says that the works have started and no one is allowed inside. However, no one really knows what works have started on how they are progressing. Who is monitoring and who is responsible if mistakes are repeated?
Thank you for watching. Follow the Caucasus Dispatch on social media channels for more updates.
And don't forget to tune in tomorrow at 7 o'clock for news presented by our colleagues Gaya Negasayan and Shayan Holakwi. Good